The concealer wasn't covering it. I pressed the makeup sponge harder against my cheekbone, watching the bruise bloom purple beneath foundation 3 shades too light for my skin. My hands shook. They always did now, in these quiet moments backstage when the cameras weren't rolling and I had to face what I'd become. A beautiful lie. The mark on my neck burned. It always burned when Minseok was near, a constant reminder of the promise he'd carved into my skin 3 years ago. Forever, he'd whispered. You're mine forever. I should have known forever had an expiration date. Through the curtain separating backstage from the main ballroom, I heard his laugh. Deep, warm, the kind of sound that used to make my chest flutter. Now it just made me nauseous because I knew that laugh wasn't for me. It was never for me anymore. Mr. Yejun? The assistant poked her head through the curtain, her smile professionally bright. They're ready for photos in 5 minutes. Thank you. My voice came out steady. That was the trick, wasn't it? Keep the voice steady. Keep the smile perfect. Keep the world convinced that Yejun Park, world-famous Omega model with the androgynous, blonde beauty that graced magazine covers in 14 countries, had everything a person could want. Nobody needed to know I was dying inside. I smoothed down the front of my navy suit. Minseok hated when I wore anything too eye-catching to his events, and stepped through the curtain into the charity gala's main ballroom. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light across marble floors. Los Angeles's elite mingled in designer clothes and practiced smiles, champagne glasses catching the light like tiny stars. And every head turned when I entered. They always did. Even after 3 years of marriage, even after becoming Minseok's shadow, my face still commanded attention. Blonde hair swept back, blue eyes that photographers called devastating, features so androgynous that fashion editors fought over whether to book me for men's or women's campaigns. I was beautiful. I was also invisible to the one person whose gaze I craved. Across the ballroom, Minseok stood beside her. Arium, delicate, soft-spoken Arium, with her practiced, trembling lower lip and eyes that welled with tears at exactly the right moments. She wore cream tonight, innocent, virginal cream, and her hand rested on Minseok's forearm like she belonged there, like I didn't exist. My mark burned hotter. I forced myself to breathe through it, and the way I'd learned to breathe through everything else. The slaps, the cold shoulders, the nights he came home smelling like her jasmine perfume and told me I was imagining things, that I was being dramatic, that maybe if I wasn't so needy, he wouldn't need to seek comfort elsewhere. Comfort, as if destroying me was self-care. Yejun! A camera flashed. I turned, smile automatic, and let them capture the lie. Another flash. Another. The photographers loved me. The world loved me. Nobody knew the world-famous beauty went home to bruises and a child who waited by the door every night asking when Appa would finally look at him. Jinha. My chest tightened thinking about him. 5 years old with Minseok's dark eyes and my blonde hair, sitting in the car right now with our security guard because his father refused to bring him inside. Said a child would be disruptive. Said important people didn't want to deal with a kid running around. Said a lot of things that translated to, I'm ashamed of my son. The mark burned again. I touched my neck instinctively, feeling the raised skin beneath my collar. 3 years ago, that mark meant safety, protection, love. Now it was just a scar that wouldn't heal. Excuse me. An older alpha approached, his smile practiced and pitying. You're Yejun Park, aren't you? I loved your spread in Vanity Fair last month. Thank you. You came alone tonight? His eyes flicked across the ballroom, searching. Where's that husband of yours? The question landed like a slap. I knew where Minseok was. Everyone in this ballroom knew where Minseok was. He stood 20 feet away with his hand on another Omega's lower back, laughing at something she whispered, looking at her the way he used to look at me before the wedding, before the mark, before I became something he owned rather than someone he loved. He's busy, I said. The alpha's expression shifted. Pity. I hated pity more than I hated the bruises. Trouble in paradise? He asked, tone dripping with false concern. I smiled, perfect, practiced, empty. Paradise is overrated. He laughed uncomfortably and moved away. I stood there, surrounded by people and completely alone, feeling the mark on my neck pulse with phantom warmth that had long since turned to ice. I used to believe the mark meant forever. Now I knew it just meant I was trapped. The thought settled over me like a funeral shroud. 3 years. 3 years of trying. 3 years of hoping. 3 years of watching Minseok choose her, when again and again and again, while I smiled for cameras and pretended my heart wasn't bleeding out in real time. How much more could I endure? Then I smelled it. Unfamiliar. Electric. Wrong in the way it made my heart stutter and my breath catch. Cedarwood in winter rain, sharp and clean, cutting through the champagne-soaked air like a blade. I turned. 2 alphas stood near the entrance, identical, devastating. Dark hair swept back, sharp jawlines, eyes that tracked me across the ballroom with an intensity that felt like being seen, truly seen, for the first time in years. My pulse stuttered. The mark on my neck burned. I should have looked away. I didn't. They moved like gravity. That's the only way I could describe it as the 2 alphas crossed the ballroom floor toward me. Everyone else seemed to pull back instinctively, creating space while I stood frozen with my champagne glass and my practiced smile and the sudden terrifying feeling that my entire world was about to shift. The cedarwood and winter rain scent grew stronger. My pulse hammered against my throat. Yejun Park. The first one spoke my name, like he'd been waiting years to say it. Dark eyes held mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. I'm Taijin Choi. This is my brother, Siwoo. The second alpha's gaze was softer, but no less focused. We've been hoping to meet you. I blinked, tried to remember how to speak. You know who I am. Everyone knows who you are, Taijin said quietly. But we'd like to know you. The distinction hit me harder than it should have. When was the last time someone wanted to know me? Not photograph me, not display me, not own me, just know me. We just closed a major acquisition with your husband's company, Siwoo added, his voice smooth. Though I have to say, meeting you makes the entire negotiation worth it. Heat crept up my neck. I wasn't used to this. Attention that felt like genuine interest rather than possession. Compliments that didn't come with conditions. That's very kind, I managed. It's honest. Taejin's eyes never left mine. You look like you need to escape this circus. Can we get you a real drink? Something that doesn't taste like expensive lies? A laugh escaped before I could stop it. Genuine, surprised. The sound felt foreign in my own throat. I shouldn't. Why not? Siwoo's smile was knowing. Your husband is occupied. The words should have stung. Instead, they felt like permission. I glanced across the ballroom where Minseok still stood with Ariam, his hand now resting possessively on her waist. He hadn't looked at me once since I entered. One drink, I heard myself say. Taejin's smile transformed his face. One drink. They moved to flank me, not touching, but close enough that their scents wrapped around me like a shield. For the first time all night, I felt like I could breathe. Like maybe I wasn't completely alone in this gilded cage. We were halfway to the bar when I heard it. Appa! Appa! The world stopped. That voice, that small, desperate, heartbreaking voice that I'd know anywhere. I spun toward the entrance. So security guards stood blocking a small figure, but I could see blonde hair, my blonde hair, and a little hand clutching something white. Paper, a drawing. Jinha, I whispered. My son broke through the security guard's grip and ran into the ballroom. His small legs pumped hard, his face streaked with tears, the drawing fluttering in his grip like a white flag of surrender. Appa, he cried again. Appa, please. But he wasn't running to me. He was running to Minseok. My heart shattered. I moved without thinking, pushing through the crowd, but everything felt like slow motion. The entire ballroom had gone silent. Every elite eye turned to watch the spectacle of a 3-year-old child disrupting their sophisticated evening. Gina reached Minseok and stopped, chest heaving, tears streaming down his cheeks. He held up the drawing with trembling hands. I made this for you, Appa, he sobbed. I waited all day. Please look at it. Please. Minseok's expression turned to ice. Not surprise, not concern. Ice. He glanced around the ballroom, taking in the watching faces, the whispers starting to ripple through the crowd. His jaw tightened. His eyes went dark with something that looked like rage. I told you to stay in the car. His voice was quiet, cold, each word sharp enough to draw blood. Gina flinched. But I wanted to show you. Minseok's hand shot out and grabbed Gina's wrist. Hard. Hard enough that I saw my son wince, saw his small face contort with pain. You're embarrassing me, Minseok hissed, in front of important people. Do you understand what you've done? Minseok, I breathed, finally finding my voice. He didn't even look at me. Arayam stepped closer, her hand fluttering to her chest in that practiced gesture of concern. It's okay, she murmured, her voice pitched to Carrie. He just misses you since Yejun is always busy. Children need attention. The implication hung in the air like poison, that I wasn't giving Jinha enough attention, that this was somehow my failure as a parent. Jinha's face crumpled. The drawing slipped from his fingers and fluttered to the marble floor. His voice came out so small, so broken, that it destroyed me. I just wanted you to see me. Something snapped inside my chest. I moved forward, but suddenly Taejin was there first. He knelt in front of Jinha with fluid grace, picking up the fallen drawing with careful hands. His voice was gentle when he spoke. This is beautiful. He studied the crayon lines seriously. You're very talented. Is this your family? Jinha hiccuped, nodding. His small finger pointed to the figures. That's me and Papa, and that's Appa, but he's far away because he's always busy. The drawing showed exactly what Gina described. Two figures close together, one small, one with blonde hair, and a third figure, separate, distant, alone on the other side of the paper. My throat closed. Siwoo moved then, stepping between Minseok and Jinha. His presence was a wall, protective, unmovable. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but carried an edge sharp enough to cut. That's your son. Maybe you should act like it. The ballroom went deadly silent. Minseok's face darkened with rage. One, you have no right. I have every right to call out cruelty when I see it. Siwoo's eyes were chips of ice, especially when it's directed at a child. I finally reached Jinha and scooped him into my arms. He buried his face in my neck, his small body shaking with sobs. I held him tight, one hand cradling his head, the other wrapped around his back. Shh, baby, I whispered. I've got you. I've got you. Minseok turned his fury on me. Get him out of here before you embarrass me further. The words hit me like a physical blow. Not concern for his crying son, not shame for causing the tears, just anger that we were ruining his perfect image. I looked at him, really looked at him, at the man I'd married, the man who'd marked me, the man who'd promised forever. I saw a stranger. Something inside me broke. A knot shattered. That had been happening for 3 years. This was different. This was the final thread snapping, the last piece of hope dying. I stood holding Jinha and met Minseok's eyes without fear for the first time in 3 years. The only embarrassment here is you. The words came out steady, clear, true. Minseok's face went white, then red. Yejun. But I was already walking, past him, past Arayam with her practiced, shocked expression, past the watching crowd with their phones and their judgment and their pity. I walked toward the exit. The twins fell into step beside me without a word. Taejin still held Jinha's drawing. Siwoo's presence on my other side felt like a shield. Yejun! Minseok's voice cracked through the ballroom, sharp, commanding. The alpha voice that had always made me stop, made me turn, made me obey. Oh, I kept walking. The mark on my neck stopped burning. We passed through the ballroom doors into the cool Los Angeles night. The valet area was quiet, just the distant sound of traffic and the rustle of palm trees in the breeze. Jinha's sobs had quieted to hiccups against my shoulder. I held him tighter, breathing in his familiar scent, milk and honey and innocence I couldn't protect. I'm sorry, Mama, he whispered. I just wanted him to love me. My eyes burned. I know, baby. I know. Taejin moved closer, his voice gentle. Do you have somewhere safe to go tonight? The question broke something open in my chest. When was the last time someone asked if I was safe? When was the last time anyone cared? I opened my mouth to say yes. to lie the way I always lied, to pretend everything was fine. But what came out was the truth. No, we have a guest house in Malibu, safe, private. No one would find you there. Taijin's voice was gentle, his hand extended like an offering. Behind him, Siwoo watched me with those dark eyes that seemed to see too much. I held Jinha tighter against my chest and stepped back. Thank you, but no. The words came out colder than I intended. Taijin's expression flickered. Hurt, maybe, but I couldn't afford to care. 3 years of being used had taught me one unshakable truth. No one helps without expecting something in return. Yejun, Siwoo said quietly. We're not. I appreciate what you did tonight. I kept my voice steady, professional, the same tone I use with photographers and journalists. But I can handle this myself. Their protectiveness felt wrong, suspicious. They didn't know me anything. So why were they here? What did they want? My career, my connections, my body. Everyone wanted something. At least take this. Taijun pressed a business card into my free hand, the one not cradling Jinha's head. If you need anything, anything at all. I looked down at the embossed lettering, Choi Industries, a phone number, nothing else. Thank you, I said, already knowing I'd never use it. I called my own car service. The twins stayed until the black sedan pulled up, their presence a shield I didn't trust. When I climbed into the back seat with Jinha, I saw them through the window, standing together in the valet area, watching us leave. I didn't look back. The driver took me to a boutique hotel in downtown Los Angeles, somewhere Minseok wouldn't think to look. Somewhere anonymous enough that the front desk clerk barely glanced at my face when I checked in under a false name. Gina hadn't stopped crying. His small body shook against mine as we rode the elevator to the 8th floor. His tears soaked through my suit jacket. His fingers clutched Jinha's rescue drawing like a lifeline. I carried him into the hotel room and straight to the bed. He didn't let go of me. Didn't want to be put down. Does Appa hate us, Mama? His voice was so small, so broken, 3 years old and already learning what rejection felt like. I swallowed hard. No, baby. Appa doesn't hate you. Then why won't he look at me? The question gutted me. How do you explain cruelty to a child? How do you tell your son that his father is capable of love, just not for him? Appa is very busy, I whispered, hating myself for the lie. Important work. He gets stressed. Is it because of me? Gina's eyes, Minseok's eyes, stared up at me. Am I bad? No. I cupped his face, my thumbs wiping away his tears. You are perfect. You are kind and smart and so loved. This isn't about you, baby. This is about Appa forgetting what matters. Gina's lower lip trembled. Will he remember? I didn't have an answer that wouldn't break us both. Sleep now, I murmured, tucking him under the covers. His drawing lay beside his pillow, the crayon figures already smudged from his tears. Everything will be better in the morning. Another lie. I waited until his breathing evened out, until his small chest rose and fell in sleep's rhythm, before I let myself move. My legs felt heavy as I walked to the bathroom. My hands shook as I gripped the marble sink. I stared at my reflection, dead inside. I pressed my palms against the counter and let myself break, silently, completely. My shoulders shook with sobs I couldn't release because Gina might hear. Tears streamed down my face, ruining the concealer I'd layered over bruises earlier tonight. The mark on my neck pulsed, not burning anymore, just hollow, empty, like the bond itself knew it was dying. How had I let it get this bad? How had I convinced myself that staying was noble when all it did was teach my son that love meant accepting cruelty? I slid down to the bathroom floor, my back against the tub, and cried until I had nothing left. 2 in the morning found me sitting on the hotel bed with my phone in my hands. Jinha slept peacefully beside me. Outside the window, Los Angeles glittered like broken glass. I pulled up Hiran's contact, my lawyer, an Omega woman with sharp eyes and sharper words who'd been telling me to leave Minseok for 2 years. My thumb hovered over the call button. This was it, the point of no return. Once I made this call, everything would change. Everything would end. I pressed dial, She answered on the second ring, her voice alert despite the hour. Yejun? I want a divorce. Silence. Then a long exhale. I'll file the paperwork in the morning, Karen said. No questions, no judgment, just immediate action. Then her voice softened. Yejun, you need to prepare yourself. The industry won't be kind. Her warning confirmed what I'd always known, what kept me trapped for so long. That divorce would cost me everything. But I'd made my choice the moment Minseok hurt Jinha. And no career was worth my son's soul. I know, I whispered. Good. Then let's burn it all down. Morning came too fast. My phone started buzzing at 6. By 6:15, it was vibrating continuously. Notifications flooded my screen faster than I could read them. The story had leaked. World-famous Omega model files for divorce from Alpha CEO husband. My manager's name flashed across the screen. I answered. Tell me this is a mistake. His voice was pure panic. Tell me you didn't actually file. I filed. Yejun, 3 brands just pulled out, all citing moral concerns and family values. A divorced Omega doesn't fit their image. The words hit like physical blows. How many more? I asked quietly. I don't know yet. The phones won't stop ringing. Everyone wants a statement. Everyone wants to know why you're destroying your own career. I watched Jinha sleep, his small face peaceful in a way it never was when awake anymore. Because some things matter more than contracts. My manager made a frustrated sound. Your skincare line. The investors are pulling out. All of them. They're saying a failed Omega isn't marketable, isn't aspirational, isn't worth the risk. My independent income. The one thing I'd built that was mine. Gone. I ended the call. The next hour was a masterclass in watching everything I'd worked for crumble in real time. Fashion magazines canceled shoots. Investment offers disappeared. Brands I'd worked with for years issued statements about parting ways and mutual decisions. My publicist called. I can't represent you through this, she said, apologetic but firm. The scandal is too big. I'm sorry, Yejun. I really am. Another door slamming shut. Jinha woke up asking for breakfast. I smiled, pretended everything was fine, ordered room service while my phone kept buzzing with everything I was losing. This was why I'd stayed so long. Not just hope that Minseok would change, not just Jinha's love for his father, but this, the knowledge that leaving would destroy everything I'd built. In Omega society, divorce wasn't freedom, it was failure. Proof you couldn't keep your alpha, couldn't maintain your bond, couldn't fulfill your purpose. I was sitting on the bed surrounded by the wreckage of my career when Jinha climbed into my lap. Are we going home soon? The question broke something inside me. We didn't have a home anymore. Minseok owned the house, owned everything. And I just filed for divorce from the man who controlled my entire world. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Something made me pick up. You made a mistake, Yejun. Minseok's voice. Cold, controlled, lethal. I'm going to make sure you regret it. The knock came 10 minutes after Minseok's threat. Firm, deliberate, too confident for hotel staff. My entire body went rigid. Gina looked up from his coloring book, crayon frozen mid-stroke. I pressed a finger to my lips and moved toward the door, my heart hammering against my ribs. Through the peephole, I saw them, Taijin and Siwoo, both in sharp business suits, standing in the hallway like they owned the building. How did they find me? I opened the door an inch, keeping the chain lock engaged. How did you find me? Taijin had the decency to look apologetic. We have resources, and we needed to make sure you were safe after last night. Anger flared hot in my chest. This was invasive. This was crossing boundaries. This felt like another form of control disguised as concern. What, you had no right to track me down. My voice came out sharp despite Jinha playing just feet away, oblivious to the tension crackling through the air. Siwoo stepped forward, his expression calm but serious. You're right, we overstepped. But before you close this door, hear us out. 5 minutes. Every instinct screamed to slam the door in their faces, to protect myself and Jinha from whatever game these alphas were playing. But something stopped me. Desperation, maybe, or curiosity, or the memory of how they'd knelt in front of my crying son when his own father wouldn't. I removed the chain and opened the door. They entered slowly, maintaining distance, not crowding the small space. Their presence was commanding but somehow respectful. Am I like they understood the power dynamics at play and were actively trying not to use them against me? Nice alphas! Gina's face lit up. He dropped his crayon and scrambled to his feet. You're the ones from last night. You liked my drawing. Taijin knelt immediately, bringing himself to Jinha's eye level. His smile was genuine, warm. I remember your drawing, the one with your family. You're very talented. Are you making another masterpiece? Jinha nodded enthusiastically, holding up his current creation. It's a dragon. See the wings? Beautiful wings, Taijin said seriously, like he was critiquing art in a gallery. The casual kindness toward my son made my chest tighten, but I forced myself to stay guarded, to remember that kindness always came with a price. I positioned myself between them and Jinha, arms crossed, defensive. Aha, why are you here? Siwoo's dark eyes met mine directly. No games, no pretense. We want to invest in you, $1 billion into your skincare line. The number was so absurd I actually laughed, a sharp, disbelieving sound that echoed in the small hotel room. That's not funny. It's not a joke, Taijin said, standing. His expression was completely serious. $1 billion. The words didn't compute. They were too large, too generous, too impossible. Why would you invest $1 billion in a failed Omega whose investors just pulled out? I kept my voice steady even as my mind raced. That makes no business sense. It makes perfect business sense, Taijin countered. We've been following your brand for 2 years. Your skincare line has potential to be a $10 billion empire. Hamona, the only thing holding it back was limited capital and conservative investors who couldn't see past traditional Omega roles. Siwoo moved closer but stopped when I tensed. Your investors didn't pull out because your business model is flawed. They pulled out because they're cowards who care more about optics than profit. We're not. I wanted to believe them, wanted to accept the lifeline they were offering while I was drowning. But I'd learned better. What do you want in return? My voice turned cold. Majority ownership? Creative control? Me? The last word came out bitter, accusatory, because that's what alphas always wanted from me. My body, my compliance, my submission wrapped in business contracts. Taijin's face showed genuine hurt. We want 30% equity. You maintain creative control, full autonomy. This is a business investment, not a transaction for your affection. We want you to succeed, Siwoo added quietly, because we're tired of watching capable Omegas get crushed by a system designed to keep them dependent. Their words sounded too good to be true. Everything too good was usually a trap. I need time to think. My voice wavered, because I was drowning, because they were offering a lifeline, because I was too terrified to grab it. Taijin nodded, pulling a leather folder from his briefcase. Our lawyers drew up a contract. No pressure. Read it. Have your lawyer review every clause. If you decide no, we'll respect that and never contact you again. He set the folder on the desk. His movements were careful, non-threatening. They moved toward the door. Wait, Gina called out. Both alphas turned. Will you come back? Now our papa needs friends. The innocence of the statement broke something inside me. My 3-year-old son could see what I was too scared to admit. I was alone. Siwoo looked at me, not Jinha, when he answered. Only if your papa wants us to. Then they were gone. I stood in the hotel room holding a folder worth $1 billion, wondering if I was being saved or trapped in a different kind of cage. Jinha tugged on my sleeve. I like them, Papa. They're nice. Yeah, I murmured. They seem nice. But nice didn't mean safe. I waited until Jinha went back to his coloring before I opened the folder. My hands shook. The contract was thick, professional, every page marked with tiny tabs and highlighted sections. The first clause made my breath catch. Creative autonomy guaranteed in perpetuity. No alpha approval required for any business decisions. I flipped through more pages. Each clause was more generous than the last. 30% equity. I kept majority control. Full operational authority. They got board seats but no veto power. Profit sharing that actually favored me. This couldn't be real. I pulled out my phone and called Hiron. "Tell me you're not calling to back out of the divorce," she said by way of greeting. "No, something else." I explained the offer quickly. The twins, the $1 billion, the contract that seemed too good to be real. Silence on the other end. Then, "Send me the contract, now." I photographed every page and sent them over. Waited while she reviewed. "Yejun," her voice was careful. "This contract is legitimate. More than legitimate. It's the most favorable investment deal I've seen in 15 years of practice. There has to be a catch. If there is, I can't find it. The only unusual clause is a non-disparagement agreement that goes both ways. You can't publicly trash them. They can't publicly trash you. Standard for high-profile investments." My mind raced. Why would they do this? Maybe they actually believe in your business. Maybe they're not complete bastards like your soon-to-be ex-husband. She paused. Or maybe they want something that's not in the contract. That's what terrified me. What do I do? That's your call. But Yejun, you need this. Minseok is already making moves. He's got lawyers calling in favors. This investment would make you untouchable. We ended the call. I stared at the contract spread across the hotel desk. One signature. One decision. One leap into the unknown. Gina climbed into my lap. "Are the nice alphas going to help us?" I kissed the top of his head. "I don't know, baby." But I knew I was out of options, out of time, out of everything except the desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, not all alphas were like Minseok. The room still smelled like them. Cedar wood and winter rain. Sharp, clean. Nothing like Minseok's heavy cologne that always made me feel suffocated. And something else. Something deeper that I couldn't name. Something that made the hollow mark on my neck pulse for the first time in months. Not burning, not painful, just alive. That terrified me most. I signed my name on the contract at 2 in the morning. $1 billion. A partnership that would either save me or destroy me. Hiron watched through video call as I initialed every page, her expression tight with worry and something that looked like hope. "This is the right choice," she said when I finished. I wasn't sure I believed her. The twins arranged everything within hours. Moving truck, security detail. By dawn, we were driving up the Pacific Coast Highway toward Malibu. The guest house sat on a cliff overlooking the ocean. Glass walls, modern lines. More space than Jinha and I had ever occupied together. Beautiful in a way that made my chest ache because it felt like accepting charity. Like admitting I'd failed. Siwoo carried Jinha inside, my son drowsy and clinging to his neck. Taejin stayed beside me as I stood in the driveway, frozen. "It's temporary," I said. To him, to myself. "It's yours as long as you need it." His voice was gentle. No strings. Inside, Siwoo was already showing Jinha his new room. Ocean blue walls. A bed shaped like a boat. Toys neither of us had purchased waiting on shelves. My son's delighted laughter drifted through the house. "How long have you been planning this?" The question came out sharper than I intended. Taejin met my eyes without flinching. "The room? A week? Everything else?" 2 years. The pieces clicked together in my mind. The investment offer ready before I even filed for divorce. Finding me at that hotel, knowing about my skincare line's potential. "You've been watching me." Yes. No hesitation, no apology. Siwoo returned, Hunei leaving Jinha to explore his new space. Both twins stood before me in the open living room, ocean light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows behind them. "We first caught your scent at a business conference 2 years ago," Siwoo said. "Minseok introduced you as his husband. You smiled for the cameras, but your eyes were already dead. We started working with his company specifically to get close to you." Taijin's voice was steady, honest. "Every business meeting, every gala invitation, we were looking for a way to reach you." I should have been angry, should have felt violated. Instead, I felt seen in a way that was both thrilling and terrifying. "Why?" My voice cracked. "You don't even know me." "Because you're our mate." The words hung in the air like a detonation. Siwoo had spoken them. Quiet, certain, devastating. And I laughed, bitter, disbelieving. "I'm already mated, to Minseok. You can see the mark." "A mark isn't a bond." Taejin stepped closer, not threatening, just present. You can't feel it, can you? The connection to him. It's hollow, forced. That's not how true mate bonds work. My hand went to my neck involuntarily, to the raised skin that hadn't burned in months, that felt like scar tissue instead of something alive. You're wrong. Are we? Siwoo's dark eyes held mine. When did it stop feeling real? When did his touch stop bringing comfort? When did the mark become just another wound? I couldn't answer, because they were right, because the bond with Minseok had been dying for longer than I wanted to admit. We can't force you to feel what we feel, Taijin said gently. The mark is blocking the true bond from forming. Chill, but your body knows. Your omega knows. That's why our scents affect you. The cedarwood and winter rain that made my pulse stutter, that made the dead mark pulse with phantom warmth, that felt like coming home to a place I'd never been. I can't do this. The words tore out of me. I just filed for divorce. My career's in ruins. I can't think about bonds or mates or... Then don't, Siwoo interrupted, his voice firm but kind. We're not asking you to. We're just telling you the truth. What you do with it is your choice. Days blurred together after that night. The twins were present, but not suffocating. Taijin worked from the house's office. Siwoo played with Jinha on the beach, building sandcastles and collecting shells. They gave me space to breathe while Hyerin navigated the legal maze of my divorce. Was the divorce finalized shockingly fast? 3 weeks. Minseok waived his right to contest, signed everything, made it easy. I should have known better. 2 days after the divorce papers arrived, a process server knocked on the door. Custody hearing, scheduled in 48 hours. I'd never received proper notice, never had time to prepare. Hyerin was furious when I called her. This is illegal. He used his connections to bypass proper procedure, but fighting the timeline means automatic default judgment in his favor. Her voice was tight with helpless rage. We have to go to court unprepared. The twins mobilized immediately. Taijin called their family law attorney. Siwoo gathered character witnesses. But we all knew the truth simmering beneath the action. The system favored alphas. Evidence didn't matter. Photos of bruises didn't matter. Testimony from teachers didn't matter. I was an omega. Minseok was an alpha. That's all the court would see. The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep. I stood on the beach watching waves crash against rocks, feeling like those rocks, battered, eroding, about to break. Can't sleep either. Siwoo's voice came from behind me. He didn't move closer, just stood there in the moonlight, giving me the choice. He's going to win. My voice was hollow. The evidence won't matter. I'm an omega and he's an alpha, and that's all the court will see. We won't let that happen. But even Siwoo didn't sound convinced. Court day arrived with cruel sunshine. I wore a borrowed navy suit that fit wrong in the shoulders. The twins sat in the gallery behind me, or their presence the only thing keeping me from shattering. Hyerin sat beside me at the plaintiff's table, her hand briefly squeezing mine. Minseok looked confident, composed. His lawyer was expensive and ruthless. Aram sat beside him playing the supportive fiancée, her hand resting on his arm in a gesture calculated for the judge's benefit. The proceedings started. Minseok's lawyer painted me as unstable, an omega who abandoned the family home, who filed for divorce impulsively, who moved his child into an inappropriate environment with 2 unrelated alphas. Mr. Park prioritizes his modeling career over his parental responsibilities, the lawyer said smoothly. His recent scandal demonstrates poor judgment and emotional instability. The child needs structure, stability. A traditional household led by a capable alpha father. My lawyer countered with evidence. Photos of bruises on my arms, my face, my ribs. Testimony from Jinha's former teachers documenting Minseok's complete absence. Bank records showing systematic financial abuse. The judge barely glanced at any of it. He was an alpha in his 60s with steel gray hair and cold eyes. He studied every word from Minseok's lawyer with obvious approval, nodded along with characterizations of omega instability and alpha leadership. They called Minseok to the stand. He performed perfectly. Concerned father worried about his son's well-being, reluctant to speak ill of his ex-spouse but duty-bound to tell the truth. He claimed I was emotionally volatile, said I'd always prioritize career over parenting. It suggested the divorce was a cry for attention that spiraled out of control. I just want what's best for Jinha, Minseok said, his voice breaking at exactly the right moment. He needs stability. He needs his father. Arayam dabbed at her eyes in the gallery. The judge's expression softened. When I took the stand, Minseok's lawyer eviscerated me. Isn't it true you moved your child into a home with two unmated alphas mere days after filing for divorce? They're business partners providing temporary. Yes or no, Mr. Park? Yes, but isn't it true your modeling career is based on your physical appearance rather than any meaningful parenting skills? My career doesn't define my ability to. Yes or no? That's not a fair. Your Honor, the witness is being evasive. Every answer I gave was twisted. Now my truth became evidence of instability. The judge's expression grew more disapproving with each word. Closing arguments finished in a blur. The judge announced he would deliver his ruling immediately. No recess, no deliberation, just a decision made in real time. My heart hammered against my ribs. Behind me, I felt Taejin and Siwoo tense. Hiran grabbed my hand under the table, her fingers ice cold. The judge cleared his throat. This court has reviewed the evidence and testimony presented. His eyes fixed on me, cold, dismissive. While we acknowledge the Omega parent's attachment to the child, we must prioritize the child's best interests and stability. No. The words screamed through my mind but couldn't escape my throat. The child needs structure, traditional family values. Not an Omega navigating a public scandal while cohabitating with unrelated alphas in what can only be described as an unconventional arrangement. Hiran's grip on my hand tightened until it hurt. Primary custody is awarded to the alpha father with supervised visitation for the Omega parent pending psychological evaluation. The courtroom spun. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what was happening. They were taking my son. The courtroom emptied, but I couldn't move. My legs wouldn't work. My hands lay flat on the table in front of me, numb and useless. Around me, people gathered briefcases and whispered about their next cases. Life continuing like mine hadn't just ended. Hiran was arguing with the clerk about appeal timelines. The twins stood behind me like sentinels. And Minseok was walking toward our table with Arayam clinging to his arm. Her expression was perfectly sympathetic, concerned. The face of a woman who cared deeply about a tragic situation, but her eyes gleamed with pure triumph. You should have stayed. Minseok's voice was quiet, meant only for me. You would still have a son. The words landed like a physical blow. Arayam leaned closer, her voice sugar-sweet. I'll take such good care of Jinha. He'll finally have a proper Omega parent. One who knows her place. Not just taking my husband, taking my role. My son. Everything I was. I stood on shaking legs. The twins moved immediately, flanking me without crowding. Siwoo's hand hovered near my back, not touching, but present. Taejin stepped between me and Minseok's satisfied smile. Enjoy your business partners, Arayam said, louder now. Loud enough for the lingering court staff to hear. I'm sure they'll be very comforting when you're visiting your son under supervision, like a stranger. White-hot rage flooded through me. My hands clenched into fists. But I couldn't speak, couldn't give her the satisfaction of watching me break in public. Taejin's hand found my elbow. Let's go. We walked out, through the courthouse halls, down the steps, into the parking garage. I made it to the car before my legs gave out. However, Taejin caught me before I hit concrete. The drive back to Malibu was silent. I stared out the window watching Los Angeles blur past, feeling nothing. The ocean appeared. The guest house. Home that wasn't home because Jinha wasn't there. I had 2 hours before they came for him. 2 hours to pack his things. 2 hours to explain to my 3-year-old why Papa couldn't keep him safe. Gina was playing in his room when we arrived. Building blocks, humming a song I'd taught him. He looked up when I entered and his whole face lit up. Papa, did you bring me a surprise? I knelt in front of him, tried to smile, failed. Baby, we need to talk. His expression shifted. Children always know when something's wrong. You're going to stay with Appa for a while, I said, each word cutting me open, in his big house. And won't that be fun? Gina's lower lip trembled. But I want to stay with you, Papa. I don't want to live with Appa. He's mean. The truth from a 3-year-old's mouth. Simple. Devastating. Ignored by every adult who was supposed to protect him. I know, baby, I know. I pulled him into my arms. But sometimes we have to do things we don't want to do. Just for a little while. Papa will visit you, I promise. Every day? As much as they let me. He started crying. Quiet sobs that shook his small body. I held him and felt my heart break into pieces too small to ever put back together. The social worker arrived exactly on time. Professional. Cold. Just doing her job. She had documents for me to sign. Temporary custody transfer. Supervised visitation schedule. Terms and conditions for seeing my own son. Yejun clung to me when she tried to take him. His small hands locked around my neck. Papa, please. Don't let them take me. Please. She had to physically pry his fingers away, one by one, while he screamed. Papa! Papa! I watched through the window as she carried him to the black sedan where Minseok waited. Aram sat in the passenger seat. She waved at Jinha like they were going on a fun adventure. The car pulled away. Jinha's face pressed against the rear window. Still crying, still reaching for me. Then they turned the corner and he was gone. I stood in the entryway and screamed. Screamed until my throat bled. Screamed until I had no voice left. Then I collapsed on the marble floor and sobbed. The twins didn't try to fix it. Siwoo sat beside me on the cold floor. Taijin brought water I couldn't drink. They just let me break. Hours passed. Night fell. I was hollow, empty, a shell where a person used to be. Then I felt it, sharp burning on my neck, different from before. The mark was actively hurting, like my body was rejecting it. My hand flew to my throat. The skin was hot, inflamed. The bond is severing. Taejin's voice was gentle. Your Omega knows Jinha isn't safe with Minseok. It's trying to break the forced connection. The pain intensified over the next 2 days. The mark that never truly bonded us was finally dying, burning away like acid on skin. I couldn't sleep, couldn't focus, just endured while my body purged itself of Minseok's claim. The twins were constant. Siwoo cooked meals I didn't eat. Taijin handled business calls I couldn't focus on. Both of them just present while I fell apart. On the 3rd day, I woke up and touched my neck. The mark was fading, still there but lighter, like a scar healing instead of a wound festering. For the first time since losing Jinha, I could breathe without suffocating. And I noticed something else. The twins' scents, cedarwood and winter rain. Clearer now, stronger, wrapping around me like a protective shield. I found them in the kitchen, coffee brewing, morning light streaming through windows. It's different now, I whispered. Your sense. I can feel something I couldn't before. Siwoo set down his mug. Taejin turned from the coffee maker, both of them watching me with careful hope. The bond was blocking it, Siwoo said quietly. Now that it's fading, you can feel what was always there, the real connection. The warmth in my chest when they were near wasn't just gratitude, wasn't just attraction, it was deeper. More fundamental, my Omega recognizing home. But the realization brought no joy, because Jinha was still gone, still trapped with Minseok and Aryam, and all the mate bonds in the world couldn't fix that. A week after the custody hearing, Minseok posted photos. Jinha at Disneyland, smiling with Mickey Mouse, Minseok and Aryam on either side of him playing Happy Family. The caption, making memories with my son, blessed. The comments were full of support, praise for a father stepping up after divorce, sympathy for dealing with a difficult ex-spouse. I sat on the beach staring at those photos until the screen blurred, numb, defeated, ready to accept that I'd lost everything that mattered. We need to show you something. Taijin's voice cut through the fog. I looked up. Both twins stood there, with their expressions carrying an edge I hadn't seen before. They led me inside to the dining table. A thick manila folder sat there like a bomb waiting to detonate. Siwoo opened it, spread documents across the surface. Financial records, emails, transaction histories. We've been building this file for 18 months, he said, since we first started working with Minseok's company and realized what kind of man he was. I looked down at the papers. My hands started shaking. Embezzlement, fraud, money laundering, insider trading, shell companies in the Cayman Islands, bribes to city officials, tax evasion schemes that would make the IRS salivate. This is everything, Tajin said quietly. Every illegal deal, every bribed official, every law he's broken to build his empire. Enough to destroy him completely. Nuclear. Career ending. I'm prison-level evidence. We hoped we wouldn't have to use it. Siwoo's voice was tight. We wanted to give you the choice to walk away clean, to build your new life without looking back. But Minseok and Aryam have gone too far. Taejin's eyes met mine, steel wrapped in silk. They took your son, humiliated you in court. They're playing happy family on social media while Jinha suffers. We're done playing fair. I stared at the documents that could give me back everything. But using them meant war, meant dragging Jinha through more chaos, meant becoming the kind of person who destroyed others for revenge. What happens if I use this? My voice was barely a whisper. Siwoo leaned forward. His expression was lethal certainty. Minseok loses everything. His company, his reputation, his freedom, and you get Jinha back. The question is, are you ready to stop being the victim and become the weapon? I handed the evidence to federal prosecutors on a Tuesday morning. By Friday afternoon, Minseok's company was raided. Federal agents swarming his Beverly Hills office. Assets frozen. Arrest warrants issued for fraud, embezzlement, money laundering. The media frenzy was immediate. Every news outlet plastered his face across screens. Headlines screaming about corruption and betrayal. The powerful Alpha CEO exposed as a criminal. Interviews with former employees. Speculation about prison sentences. His empire burning in real time. Emergency custody hearing scheduled within 72 hours. New evidence presented. Federal charges pending. Character witnesses testifying about Minseok's violence and neglect. The same judge who'd ruled against me 2 weeks ago had no choice now. Custody reversal granted. Primary custody returned to me. Effective immediately. I could pick up Jinha today. The twins drove me to Beverly Hills, to the mansion I'd lived in for 3 years, the place where I'd been destroyed piece by piece. We turned onto the tree-lined street and I saw moving trucks, federal agents carrying boxes, neighbors watching from their perfectly manicured lawns. Then I saw them on the sidewalk, Minseok and Aryam, in the middle of a vicious argument, her voice shrill, his face haggard and desperate in a way I'd never seen. Siwoo slowed the car. We pulled to the curb half a block away, close enough to hear, far enough to stay invisible. You told me you were untouchable, Aryam's voice carried down the street. You said you had everything under control. I didn't sign up to be with a broke criminal. Minseok reached for her hand. This is temporary. And my lawyers will fix this. Just stay with me. Please. She ripped away from him like his touch burned. Stay with you? You have nothing left. No company, no money, no reputation. You're worthless to me now. I thought you loved me. His voice cracked. The powerful Alpha reduced to begging. Aryam laughed. Cruel, mocking. The sound cut through the afternoon air. Love? I loved what you could give me. The lifestyle, the status. You were supposed to be my upgrade from being a nobody. Her smile was vicious. Now you're worse than nothing. She delivered the killing blow with perfect timing. At least Yejun was beautiful enough to make being with you worth it. You're just pathetic. I watched from the back seat, the twins silent beside me. This was Minseok's destruction. Everything he'd built collapsing because he'd chosen cruelty over kindness. How does it feel? Siwoo asked quietly. I expected to feel satisfied, vindicated, something resembling justice. Empty, I admitted. I thought I'd feel satisfied. I just feel tired. Aryam stormed away from Minseok, her heels clicking against pavement, leaving him standing alone on the sidewalk. Broken, destroyed. Exactly what he'd made me feel for 3 years. I looked down at the court order in my hands. Official seal, judge's signature, the words that gave me back my son. I opened the car door. You ready? Taejin asked. Yes. We walked toward the mansion. The social worker waited on the front steps with Jinha. My son sat on the top stair, small and quiet, wearing clothes I hadn't packed for him. He looked up, saw me. His entire face transformed. Her papa. He flew down the steps and crashed into my arms. I caught him and held on tight, breathing in his familiar scent, milk and honey and home. You came back for me, he sobbed into my neck. I knew you would. I knew it. Always, baby. Always. Behind me, I heard Minseok's sharp intake of breath. Footsteps approaching. Yejun, wait. The twins moved to intercept, but I shook my head. I needed to face him. One last time. Siwoo held out his hands. Come on, Jinha. Let's get the car ready. Your papa will be right there. Jinha went willingly, trusting, safe with them. I turned to face Minseok. He looked terrible. Suit wrinkled, hair uncombed, eyes red-rimmed and desperate. Nothing like the composed alpha who'd controlled every aspect of my life for 3 years. He grabbed my arm, not threatening, desperate. Gilbert, you did this. His voice shook. You destroyed me. Everything I built. Gone because of you. I looked at him. Really looked at him. This alpha who'd once held all the power now reduced to nothing. No, I said quietly. You destroyed yourself. I just made sure everyone else could see what you really were. I gave you everything. The words tore out of him. A home, status, my name. And this is how you repay me? You gave me bruises and trauma. My voice stayed steady. You gave our son abandonment and shame. You gave me 3 years of dying inside while pretending to be alive. What I'm taking back isn't revenge. It's justice. His face contorted. Rage, desperation, disbelief. You'll regret this. I'll find a way to. You'll do nothing. I pulled my arm free. You have nothing left to threaten me with. Your power is gone. Your reputation is ashes. And Jinha is finally safe from you. I turned toward the car where my family waited. Then I saw her. Arayam had found her way to the twins, leaning against their car with practiced grace, smiling up at them with calculated charm. Her hand touched Taejun's arm. I've heard so much about your company, her voice carried, pitch sweet. Maybe we could discuss investment opportunities. I'm newly single and looking for the right partnership. The twins were polite, professionally distant. Siwoo stepped back from her touch. Taejun's expression remained neutral. They were showing her respect she didn't deserve. But I didn't have respect for her. This woman who'd helped destroy my marriage, who'd mocked my son, who'd played innocent while poisoning everything she touched. I walked toward them. My heels clicked against pavement. Ariam saw me and her smile turned smug, victorious, like she'd already won whatever game she was playing. I grabbed her wrist and pulled her away from the twins. Hard. She stumbled in her designer heels. Take Jinha, I said without looking away from Ariam's suddenly nervous face. He doesn't need to see this. Siwoo immediately scooped up my son and carried him to the car. Taejun hesitated. Yejun? Something in my expression made him step back. The moment Jinha was safely inside the car, I turned to Ariam. She was already recovering, her mask sliding back into place. What do you think you're... I slapped her, hard, open-palmed. The sound cracked through the air like a gunshot. Her head snapped to the side. Her lips split. Blood welled and dripped down her chin. She stared at me. Shock, fury. Quote, you crazy... Stay away from my family. My voice was deadly calm. You've destroyed enough. You won't touch them. If I see you anywhere near the twins or my son, what I did to Minseok will look like mercy compared to what I'll do to you. Her hand went to her bleeding mouth. For once, she had no clever response. No manipulation, just fear in her eyes. I walked to the car where my real family waited. The twins said nothing, but I saw approval in their eyes. Jinha was buckled in the back seat, looking at me with wide eyes. Are you okay, Papa? I smiled, genuine, free. I'm perfect, baby. As Taejun pulled away from the curb, I looked back once. Minseok stood alone on the sidewalk. Ariam held her bleeding face. Both of them exactly what they deserved to be. Nothing. The drive back to Malibu was quiet. Gina fell asleep against my shoulder, exhausted from emotion, safe now. Taejun's hand found mine in the back seat. His fingers laced through mine. Warm, steady, real. Siwoo's eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. Dark and knowing, protective without being possessive. The mark on my neck was almost completely faded now. just a shadow of what it had been. The forced bond finally dead, and for the first time in 3 years, the hollow space where a bond should be didn't hurt. It hummed with possibility. 3 days later, a video was already trending when I woke up. Broken Alpha begs for Omega ex-husband back. 3 million views, climbing fast. My phone buzzed with messages from Yejun, from the twins, from people I hadn't spoken to in months, all telling me not to watch it. I watched it anyway. Minseok sat in what looked like a cheap hotel room. Bare walls, fluorescent lighting, his suit wrinkled, hair uncombed, eyes red from crying. Nothing like the composed alpha who'd controlled every aspect of my life for 3 years. I made mistakes. His voice cracked. I know that. But our bond, 3 years of marriage, that can't just disappear. Yejun, if you're watching this, please, come home. The plea might have worked, might have tugged at something if he'd stopped there, but Minseok's ego couldn't help itself. Hey, I know you were spending time with those twin alphas before we even separated. His tone shifted, accusatory, victim. Maybe that's why I sought comfort elsewhere. Maybe we both made mistakes. I stared at the screen. He was rewriting history, making himself the wounded party, suggesting I'd cheated first to justify his own betrayal. But I'm willing to forgive everything. He leaned closer to the camera, desperate. Take you back. We can start over. Forget the past. Our bond is worth saving. The video ended. I sat there in the early morning light, Jinha still asleep down the hall, and felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no satisfaction. Just the quiet certainty that Minseok would never understand what he'd destroyed. I scrolled to the comments section. Instead of the sympathy Minseok clearly expected, it was brutal. Pretty he's gaslighting even while begging. This man beat his Omega and now wants sympathy? Disgusting. Manipulation masterclass. He is not just a gaslighter, he owns a whole gas station. Hope Yejun never looks back. Screenshots circulated. Court documents showing abuse, federal charges, witness testimonies. The public wasn't buying his redemption narrative. One comment had 50,000 likes. A 3-year bond built on abuse isn't worth a 3-second thought. Yejun deserves better. I closed the video. The balcony door opened. Taijin and Siwoo found me there, both already dressed for the day. They didn't ask if I'd seen it. They could tell from my face. Taijin sat beside me. Siwoo stood behind my chair, his hand resting on my shoulder. He's trying to rewrite everything, I said quietly. Make himself the victim. Make me the villain who abandoned a sacred bond. The world isn't listening. Siwoo showed me his phone. Tweet after tweet supporting me, condemning Minseok's manipulation. They see exactly what he is. Days later, the twins' investment became public. Press release announcing the partnership. My skincare line's massive expansion. Projections showing it could become a $10 billion empire within 5 years. The media frenzy shifted overnight, from scandal to success story. From discarded Omega to business mogul, Yejun Park's triumphant return. The twins organized a signing event, launch party for the new partnership at a luxury hotel in downtown LA. I stood in front of my closet that morning, hands shaking. I'm terrified, I admitted. This is your moment. Taejun adjusted my collar with careful fingers. Shorty, own it. I walked into the ballroom and every camera turned. Flash after flash, photographers shouting my name. The world-famous beauty who'd survived, who'd thrived, who'd refused to stay broken. Then the brands swarmed, executives from luxury fashion houses that had dropped me 2 months ago, now begging for meetings, offering contracts, pretending they'd never cited moral concerns and family values while abandoning me. A representative from a major European fashion house approached. His smile was apologetic, calculated. We'd love to discuss bringing you back for our spring campaign. He extended his hand. Before I could respond, Heron intercepted. My lawyer, who now doubled as my manager. Her smile was sharp and professional. Mr. A Park's rate has tripled since you last worked together. Her voice carried across the conversation. If you can't meet that, I suggest you step aside for brands that can. The executive's smile faltered. Surely we can negotiate. We don't negotiate down anymore. Hiren's expression didn't change. We negotiate up. Next, I watched her shut down executive after executive. Brutal efficiency, terms that would have been unthinkable 3 months ago. She was magnificent. A junior executive from a mid-tier brand tried his luck. Young, cocky, clearly not briefed properly. Surely given recent circumstances, Mr. Park would be grateful for any opportunity to rebuild his reputation. Hiren cut him off mid-sentence. Mr. Park is the opportunity. You're dismissed. His face went red. He opened his mouth to argue. Hiren simply turned her back and moved to the next conversation. The young executive stood there, dismissed and humiliated. The twins flanked me throughout the event. Not possessive, just present. Their support silent but absolute. Showing the industry I wasn't alone, wasn't vulnerable, wasn't someone to be taken advantage of anymore. Photographers captured us together. I could already see tomorrow's headlines. Twin alphas behind Omega Model's billion-dollar comeback. Speculation about our relationship building with every photo. The event was a triumph. Contracts signed, partnerships formed. My career not just resurrected but elevated beyond what it had been before the divorce. We returned to Malibu late that night. Jinha asleep upstairs with the nanny. The house quiet and peaceful. One ocean waves providing constant soundtrack to our new life. I sat on the balcony with a glass of wine, still processing everything, still adjusting to this reality where I wasn't struggling, wasn't fighting, just existing in peace. Taejin joined me, handed me his phone without a word. The screen showed a photo. Minseok walking into a rundown apartment building, sketchy part of LA. No security, no luxury car, no designer suit. Just a broken man entering a life that matched his ugly character. Our investigator took this today, Taejin said quietly. Thought you might want to see where he ended up. I studied the photo. Minseok's shoulders hunched, his once proud posture defeated, everything about him screaming failure. Siwoo appeared with his own glass of wine, settled on my other side. He's working at his cousin's car dealership, selling used cars. Siwoo's voice was neutral. The federal charges are still pending, but his lawyers abandoned him when the money dried up. For the first time since this entire nightmare began, I felt truly satisfied. Not the empty justice of watching him beg online, but the deep, bone-level satisfaction of knowing he was experiencing exactly what he'd put me through. Powerlessness. How does it feel now? Siwoo asked, echoing his question from weeks ago. I smiled. Genuine, free, unburdened. Like closing a book I should have put down years ago. Taejin's hand found mine, his fingers warm and steady. Siwoo's arm rested along the back of my chair. Both of them close but not crowding, present but not demanding. I realized this was what winning actually felt like. Not revenge, not destruction, just peace, just family, and just the quiet knowledge that I'd survived and come out stronger. The mark on my neck was completely gone now. Just smooth skin where Minseok's claim used to be. And in its absence, I felt something new forming. The twins' bond, warm and right and chosen. Not forced, not painful. Just there, growing naturally, like something that had been waiting for permission to exist. Papa? Gina's sleepy voice called from inside. I turned. He stood in the doorway, rubbing his eyes, small and perfect in his dinosaur pajamas. Can the alphas read me a story? Before I could answer, both Siwoo and Taejin were already standing, already moving toward my son like it was the most natural thing in the world. What story tonight? Taejin asked, scooping Jinha up. The dragon one. Jinha wrapped his arms around Taejin's neck, then looked at Siwoo. Huh, you do the dragon voice. It's better. Siwoo smiled, soft and genuine. Dragon voice it is. They carried him inside. I heard their voices drifting back. Jinha's giggles, the twins' patient responses, the sound of a family being built. We'd become something Minseok could never destroy, a real family. The house was empty except for the three of us. Gina was at his first sleepover with a friend from his new school. The nanny had the night off. The ocean crashed against the beach below. And I stood in the living room with both twins watching me like they'd been waiting for this moment since the day we met. Maybe they had been. The bond between us had been growing for months. Undeniable now. I felt their presence even when they were in different rooms, sensed their emotions bleeding through the connection that was forming, whether we acknowledged it or not. I was done waiting. I want to complete the bond. The words came out direct, clear, no hesitation. Both twins went absolutely still. Taijin's jaw tightened. Siwoo's eyes darkened with intensity that made my pulse quicken. You're sure? Taijin's voice was rough, controlled. Once we do this, there's no going back. I'm sure. And I was. This wasn't like Minseok's forced claim. This was choice. This was right. This was mine. Siwoo moved closer, his cedarwood scent wrapped around me like a promise. Then let's do this properly, inside. The walk from living room to bedroom felt charged, electric anticipation crackling between the three of us. No fear, no doubt, just hunger and certainty. We entered the bedroom and Taejin closed the door behind us. The click of the lock felt final, binding. There was no hesitation. Taejin pulled me close, his hand sliding to cup the back of my neck. His thumb traced the faded scar where Minseok's mark used to be. The unmarked side first, he said quietly, where he never touched you. I tilted my head, offering my neck, bearing the pristine skin on the right side. Taejin's teeth pierced my skin, sharp, burning, the pain immediate and intense. But unlike Minseok's mark, this one felt like completion, like a piece of my soul clicking into place. The bond snapped into existence. I gasped as Taejin's emotions flooded through the connection. Fierce devotion, protective love, absolute certainty that I was his and he was mine. The intensity of it staggered me. Before I could catch my breath, Siwoo turned my face to him. His eyes burned with the same intensity. I didn't need to be asked. I bared the other side of my neck. Siwoo's mark was just as powerful. Another burst of pain transforming into rightness. Another bond forming. Another connection that felt ancient and inevitable. His emotions joined Taejin's through the links now binding the three of us together. I could feel them both completely now. Their presence, their emotions, their souls intertwined with mine. The hollow space inside me was finally completely full. Our turn? Siwoo's voice was rough. Both twins tilted their heads, offering their necks. Vulnerable, trusting. Alphas offering their necks to an omega. A reversal of every social expectation. A gift of power I'd never experienced before. I moved to Taejin first. My teeth sank into his neck, tasting copper and salt and home. His sharp intake of breath sent satisfaction coursing through me. The bond strengthened, solidified, became unbreakable. Then Siwoo. I marked him with the same intensity, until all three of us were bound, connected, claimed. The bonds settled into place like they'd always been there, warm and right and permanent. And we collapsed together onto the bed, breathless, tangled, the fresh marks on our necks still bleeding slightly but already beginning to heal. I can feel everything, I whispered, amazed at the clarity. Their emotions flowed through the bonds. Devotion, satisfaction, love so deep it had no bottom. And underneath it all, the absolute certainty that this was right. So can we. Taejin's fingers traced the mark he'd left on my neck. Your strength, your fire, everything that makes you ours. No more hiding, Siwoo added, his hand covering the mark on the other side. The world can see these marks and know exactly who we are to each other. We spent hours learning the bonds, how they worked, what we could feel through them. The intimacy of being connected on such a fundamental level. I could sense when Taejin was amused. We feel when Siwoo was content. They could read my emotions just as clearly. There were no more walls, no more pretending, just three souls bound together by choice. Morning came eventually, sunlight streaming through the windows. I traced my fingers over the matching marks on all three of us. Proof that this was real, that we'd chosen each other. Gina comes home this afternoon, I said. He's going to notice, Taejin acknowledged. Good. Siwoo's voice was firm. We're his family now, officially. Let him see, Taejin agreed. Let everyone see. That afternoon, Jinha burst through the front door with his overnight bag and a stuffed animal his friend had given him. He was chattering about the sleepover before he even made it fully inside. Then his eyes landed on our necks, the fresh bonding marks, visible and unmistakable. 3 sets of matching claims that announced exactly what we were to each other. Jinha stopped mid-sentence. His eyes went wide. Then he grinned, wide and delighted, and so genuinely happy it made my chest ache. Does this mean the twins are staying forever? Yes, I answered simply. Gina let out a whoop of joy and threw himself at all 3 of us. We caught him together, the 4 of us tangled in the entryway in a mess of limbs and laughter. I have 2 more papas now. He pulled back to look at each of our faces. Can I tell my friends? They're going to be so jealous. The twins laughed, both of them holding him steady. You can tell everyone, Taejin said. The whole world if you want, Siwoo added. Gina's excitement was infectious. He spent the evening planning exactly how he'd explain his new family to his classmates. When practicing introducing the twins as Papa Tai and Papa Siwoo, testing out different ways to say it until he found the ones that felt right. Later, after Jinha finally crashed from exhaustion, we stood on the balcony overlooking the ocean. The 3 of us connected by bonds that felt as natural as breathing. No regrets? Siwoo asked, though he could feel through the bond that I had none. None, I confirmed. This is what family was always supposed to feel like. Taejin's arm wrapped around my waist. Siwoo's hand found mine. The marks on our necks were already healing, the skin knitting together but leaving permanent proof of what we'd become. The ocean stretched out before us, endless and beautiful, full of possibility. 6 months later, everything had transformed. My skincare empire doubled in value. The twins' investment proving even more profitable than projected. Brands fought for contracts. My face graced magazine covers with headlines about comebacks and triumph. Jinha thrived. He called the twins Papa Tai and Papa Siwoo without hesitation. His teachers commented on how much happier he seemed, how much more confident. And when reporters asked about the mysterious twin alphas I was bonded to, I smiled and gave them the same answer every time. They're mine. That's all anyone needs to know. We attended galas together, the 3 of us matching in our formal wear, our bonding marks visible for anyone who looked. Some people whispered, some judged. Most just stared with envy at what we had. Minseok's trial made headlines for a week. Federal prison. 20 years. His empire completely dismantled. I didn't attend the sentencing. Didn't need to see him again. The twins asked if I wanted updates. I declined. That chapter was closed. Yejun disappeared entirely. Last I heard, she'd moved to another city, trying to reinvent herself, trying to find another alpha to latch onto. I didn't care enough to follow up. My life was here, with my mates, with my son, with the family we'd built from the ashes of everything I'd lost. One evening, we sat on the beach watching Jinha play in the surf. The sunset painted everything gold. The twins flanked me, both of them relaxed in a way they never were in public. Happy? Taejin asked through the bond. I didn't need to answer out loud. The emotion flowed through our connection. Pure contentment, deep satisfaction, joy that had no conditions. But I answered anyway. Yes. Gina ran up to us, soaking wet and laughing. Papa, hey, did you see me catch that wave? We saw, I assured him. He plopped down in the sand between us. I love it here. I love our family. We love you too, Siwoo said, ruffling his hair. All of us, Taejin added. Jinha smiled and leaned against me, content and safe and exactly where he belonged. The mark on my neck hummed with warmth. The bonds connecting me to my mates pulsed with satisfaction. And for the first time in my entire life, I understood what it meant to be truly free. Not because I'd escaped, but because I'd chosen. Chosen this family. Chosen these bonds. Chosen to fight for the life I deserved instead of accepting the one forced on me. The sun dipped below the horizon, and we stayed there on the beach. Together. Complete. Home. Cure the end. If Yejun's journey from broken to unbreakable made you feel something, if you stayed for the justice, the twin alphas, or that final slap that Ariam deserved, hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me, Team Minseok's downfall or Team Twin Alphas? What was your favorite moment of revenge? And subscribe because there are more stories where Omegas don't just survive, they conquer. More bonds that are chosen, not forced. More justice that's earned, not given. This is just the beginning. See you in the next story.